Allie Buckman with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I have the pleasure of showing you how to make the Lilac bracelet. So the Lilac bracelet is based on kind of this four-pointed flower, which is made up with IrisDuo beads, and then has some ZoliDuos on the sides. If you would like to make this fun Lilac bracelet with me, I'll list the materials off now for you, but then I'll also put them in the comments little section underneath the video. There is a publish date that says when the video was published for you guys, and there's a description of the video. There's a little down arrow, kind of show more button. If you click on that, it'll give you links to all of these different products if you want to check them out and purchase them from me at PotomacBeads.com. So the Lilac bracelet uses, like I said, the IrisDuos. Each of the lilacs consists of 4 of the IrisDuos, and then there's an IrisDuo on either side spacing them out. For my bracelet, which is just under 7 inches, I have 6 of the flowers with then an extra IrisDuo in between each. If you want to make the bracelet a little bigger, you may need 7 of those flowers. In addition to the IrisDuos making up the violets here, or the lilacs here, sorry, I have the ZoliDuos. The ZoliDuos, when you're looking at them, if you haven't used them before, there's both a left and a right side of the ZoliDuos. The left and rights are going to be important to kind of making that almost horn look coming out of the actual lilac's shape. If you don't want to purchase both tubes, the design will just change its look a little bit and look a little bit more pinwheel section if you do want to just do it with one of the sides. For the actual ZoliDuos, you're going to be needing 2 of each, 2 left and 2 right per flower. So in the case of my bracelet, I'd use 12 of both the left and 12 right of the ZoliDuos. The actual little bling then that's created is done with 3x4mm Potomac crystal rondelles, and I use the magic purple color. You could use the magic purple or the magic blue or the tanzanite, all with this bracelet, and it would look really pretty. To get a little bit more bling, on the very end of the bracelet, I use the Potomac clasp here, and I'm going to be putting a 10mm crystal Rivoli in the purple, that violet metallic ice color, just like the beads, into the end here. The bracelet is then strung together with 11s and 15s, and the 11s are the blush color, the 15-0s are the hematite color. The whole thing is strung on 0.006 wildfire beading thread in the white or the green color. I use the green color preferably for the video. In addition to that, you need 2 needles. So I know you heard that, and some people say, oh no, 2 needles. Yes, it is a 2-needle project. The nice thing with 2 needles, it's very easy for beginners because they don't have to know peyote or right angle weave as they're doing these. I can show them kind of how to crisscross and work with both needles. Also, you get the opportunity then to add your clasp right away as you're making the project, and it's a simple tie at the very end of the procedure of making the Lilac bracelet. So to get started on this Lilac bracelet, we are going to be coming down the middle of the bracelet, starting with our IrisDuos and our 15 and our 11-0 seed beads. So I want you to have your 15-0s, your 11-0s, and your IrisDuos on the mat. In addition to that, I want 5 feet of beading thread with a needle on each end, one on the right and one on the left. We'll then get started coming right down the center, add portion of the clasp, and then we'll come down and back a couple times. So go ahead and get your area ready. You may want to also have a scissors or a thread burner handy, as well as a needle nose pliers to flatten out that thread to make it easier to thread those needles. So to start, we're going to begin down the center row. Again, the IrisDuos do have a flat side and they have a bubble side. We want to keep that flat side down on the mat. That way you make sure that you're picking up the right side and going the correct way. So to begin, we're going to have our 2 needles on our 5-foot piece of thread, and we're going to begin down that center row. To start, add an 11, 15, and 11 onto one of the needles. Let that drop down to the center of your thread. I have a short piece of thread here just so it's easier to keep in frame, but you'll have a little bit further to go since you'll have that 5 feet of thread. From there, we're going to pick up our first IrisDuo, going through with that flat side down. One needle is going to go through the hole on the left-hand side, and one needle is going to go through the hole on the right-hand side. And let that drop to the very bottom here. That's going to decorate the end of that IrisDuo and just keep the thread from showing and add a little bit of a touch near the clasp. From here, the pattern is always going to be the same, that after the IrisDuo that sits on that horizontal, you're going to add 2 11s on either needle. So you have 2 11s on both needles, one on the left, one on the right. Drop that down next to the pattern, and we're going to create our crisscross that goes in the middle. To do so and create that crisscross, we're picking up another IrisDuo. This time it's facing up, and it's going to face on the vertical here. We're going to go through the first hole with one needle going from right to left and the other from left to right. Pull the threads and make sure that you have an equal amount of thread on both sides of the project. From here, we're going to crisscross again through the same IrisDuo. The needle that was on the left and came to the right is now going back to the left by going through that top hole. Needle that was on the right goes back to the right on that top hole again. So you're going to see a little bit of a thread exposed on the outer edge. You won't see this at all once you actually get the project started and going. From here, we're going to pick up a 15-0 and we're going to put our IrisDuos on the side of the project. Pick up an IrisDuo on the right-hand side, going through the right-hand or the left-hand hole here when it's facing up. Add another 15 and let that drop down on the side. On the left, because we're doing both left and right needles, you're going to do the exact same thing. This time though, we're concentrating on that inner hole. We're going to go through the right-hand hole of the IrisDuo. So on the left, you're going through the right-hand hole. On the right, you're going through the left-hand hole. From here, then we have one more IrisDuo that we are going to be adding to make our little cross section. And we're going to treat this like we did the first IrisDuo that we put on in the cross. We're going to cross our needles, one from right over to the left and one from left to right, going through that same hole. Pulling the thread, then you get that cross. From here, then you want to take that needle that's on the right-hand side and go back to the left, which is going to expose a little bit of thread there, and then the needle that's on the left and go towards the right-hand side. Again, a nice little pull, and that gets that cross in there tight. From here, a pattern is going to continue that in between each of our crosses, we're going to have that horizontal IrisDuo. You're going to pick up 2 11s, the IrisDuo through the right hole with your right needle, 2 more 11s. Needle on the left gets 2 11s. You're going to share that same IrisDuo, this time the needle on the left going through that left hole, and then 2 more 11s. Once you turn this over, you can see that is your first rotation. So you have your cross and then your IrisDuo. Now we simply go back into the cross, crisscrossing through the first IrisDuo bottom hole. And then we are going to pull nice and tight, crisscross through the top hole of that same IrisDuo, left to right, right to left. Again, that's going to expose a little bit of thread there on the outer edge, and you won't see that once you get further into the project. From here, you're going to add a 15. The needle that's on the right-hand side is going to go through the left-hand hole of the IrisDuo. Then the needle that's on the left is going to go through the right-hand hole of an IrisDuo. Once we have that we drop down, we crisscross through the next IrisDuo, through the bottom hole, and then again through the top, and proceed with the same thing the whole way along the base. So this base here is going to be the base for the whole bottom of the project. As we get to the end, we'll add the outer, or we'll add the clasp, and then we'll come back down the sides, adding these ZoliDuos, and then we'll come back down one more time and add in our sides of those ZoliDuos. So we're going to continue And you're going to end up usually with about 6 of these cross sections, and we want to finish with one of our IrisDuos on the horizontal. So I have my 6 crosses of my center done now, and what I'm going to do is get ready to actually add my clasp. And again, after the fact, I'll go in and glue my matching Rivoli in that metallic purple in there. So what I'm going to do is actually attach the clasp in this center section. I'll come back then and kind of make a bridge and attach it on the sides as well. But after you're done your crosses and you're coming out of your last IrisDuo, you're going to be done with your IrisDuos at this point, so you don't need any more on the mat. And I'm going to be crisscrossing basically the threads through the clasp. If you want to, you can use a wire guard or a wire protector to do this. I'm going to go right through with the thread. To do so, I'm going to put my needle up through the clasp, one of them, and then I'm going to take the other needle and we are going to go down through the clasp. So one's going up, one's going down, just like if it were another bead. When I pull then, that clasp is going to kind of sit off to the side just like that. The weight of the clasp will keep it turned the exact way that it needs to be. From here, I'm going to take my thread and needle. I have 2 threads now going through the clasp in opposite directions. And the thread that's coming out the top is going to go down this right hand side through the 2 seed beads and out. And then the clasp that's coming out the bottom is going to go down the left hand side. And there's only 2 strands going through the clasp area. Don't worry, we will go through and add more threads as we come back down the project because we still have another way back and forward. After coming out those 2 seed beads then, even though we are done the IrisDuos, it is now time to concentrate on the ZoliDuos. And get my thread here in place. There we go. Give a nice tight pull after you do that step, and you'll want to get rid of all that extra thread that's exposed. So from here now my clasp is on and it's time to add the ZoliDuos. So the ZoliDuos, we have both right and left. When we're looking at them, the way to tell the difference between the ZoliDuos is that the right ones, when you lay them down with the big side up, the little tail goes to the right. As you can guess, on the other one, when you lay it down, the tail goes to the left. So that's going to be the difference of the ZoliDuos right and left, and that's how we are going to be utilizing them. So now we're going to get out our ZoliDuos, and we are going to have 2 of each per cross. So we have 6 crosses, so we're looking at 12 of each, both right and left. If you want to make it easier, keep the left ones on the left-hand side of your mat and the right ones on the right-hand side. Count out your 12, and then we'll get ready to add them in. So before I actually start adding the ZoliDuos in and get to the point that our needles are coming out the top there of the IrisDuo and the cross, I wanted to show that we're going to be using the right ZoliDuos in the bottom right corner and the top left corner. We're going to be using the left ZoliDuos then in the bottom left and in the top right. What that's going to do is put the kind of prongs of them out to the sides and create that cupping effect that we're going to utilize along the sides. So if you want to, you can lay your ZoliDuos out exactly as they need to be. Right is bottom right, left is bottom left. Then they crisscross at the top. So to start adding them, I have my needles on both the right and the left side. And I'm going to get to the point where I am coming out of that ZoliDuo, or I'm sorry, coming out of the IrisDuo to add the ZoliDuo. So picking up my project here, get a little bit better there for you to check out. And the needle that's on the right is going to go through the IrisDuo, through the 11 O's, and then just as if I was getting ready to continue making the cross again, I'm going to go through that IrisDuo from right to left, and then let the needle on the left-hand side join it by going up through and crisscrossing. So we're going to be going through basically the entire cross area one more time. Now that we're here, we're going to pick up the outer holes of these IrisDuos. To pick up the outer hole, again, the ZoliDuo, the right ZoliDuo is going to be bottom right, left is bottom left, and then they crisscross along the top. In between each ZoliDuo and the IrisDuo, I'm going to put one of my 11-0s. So on the right hand needle that I have in my hand here, an 11-0 goes on, going through the big part of the ZoliDuo, which is one of the right ones, and putting on another 11-0. Going through the IrisDuo, that's right there, giving a nice little tight yank. From here, I'm going to add another 11. This time it's a left ZoliDuo, going through the big part this whole time, and then we're going to go through the upper hole of the next IrisDuo that sits on the end of that cross. Get my thread under control here, and there is our first little ZoliDuo area. Put that needle on the left down, and now we're going to go on the right. On the right hand side, 11, ZoliDuo, 11, and that's a right ZoliDuo, going through the IrisDuo there, pulling my thread and making sure that the ZoliDuo sits correctly. Then I'm going to add an 11 through that big hole of the right hand IrisDuo, and then again taking the needle through the ZoliDuo at the top of the cross from left to right. When you do this, you just want to lay it down then. Make sure that your ZoliDuos are all facing in the correct direction, making sure that the flat side is facing down and that you have that nice kind of open curvature on the sides. From here, the needle that I have in my right hand, I'm going to go up through 11 ZoliDuo 11s, little yank through the IrisDuo going from right to left. Needle that's on the left then does the same thing. It is going to go up those 11s through the IrisDuo, up the 11s. If you want to decorate the outside of the IrisDuo, you can do that now too. Instead of going through the IrisDuo, you can pull your needle out beside it and add in 4 or 5 of your 11s, 5 of your 15s, and get a little bit of bling on the outside. That's up to you. From here then, the needle goes from the left hand side to the right hand side. And again, if you need to put your project down, you can do so. You're going to do ZoliDuo, bottom is going to get right, top left is also going to get the right. The left hand bottom is going to get the left, and the top right is also going to get the left. Now that I have them laying down, I'm good to go with the needle on the right, picking up an 11-0, ZoliDuo 11-0 through the IrisDuo. Again, 11, Zoli, 11 through the top hole of the top IrisDuo. There you go. And then we just continue. So I'm going to go then taking this needle through the 11 IrisDuo 11 that sits above it, both through those 11s. While I have it in my hand, and for time's sake, I'll also go through the next beginning hole of the next ZoliDuo cross. And there I have it. And now I'm going to pick up my left needle and do the exact same thing, picking up the 11-0, a left Zoli, 11-0, going through the IrisDuo, 11-0, right Zoli, 11-0 through the IrisDuo. From here then it's time to, at the very end, go ahead and add in your other side of your clasp. So what I'm going to do is actually take that clasp apart and grab the push part. Coming out of the 11-0s right after that first initial IrisDuo that we put on, I'm going to put on another 11-0 and go through my clasp. Then I'm going to take my left needle, put on an 11-0, and go through the clasp in the opposite direction. Making sure my thread isn't twisted in anything then, I'm going to give a nice tight pull and pull that clasp down towards the project. If your thread gets twisted around a little bit, just take your needle and you can kind of move it out. Once you have that, then the clasp or the needle that's at the top is going to go down the left-hand side. The needle that's coming out the bottom is going to go down the right-hand side. From here now, the fun starts of actually kind of embellishing this side of the project. Before I do that, I want to actually reinforce this clasp because we're going to be coming down the project and ending it off. So to reinforce the clasp with one of the threads, I'm going to go down through the IrisDuo. That's last. I'm going to use my right hand needle, go down through the right hand side, go up through the left hand side, up through the 11 O's then that are on above it, down through the clasp, and through the 11 O's on the opposite side. To reinforce it one more time, I'm going to do the same thing now with the left needle. Going through the IrisDuo on the left-hand side, coming out the bottom. You're going to expose a little bit of thread by then going up the right-hand side. But this will get then 4 pieces of thread going through the clasp portion, which is kind of my favorite number for clasps. We're going to come down the other side and out the 11 O. I'm going to show you then the clasp closure, and this awesome Clasp Garden Potomac clasp goes on nice and tight, and we'll sit right there on the end when we get the E6000 glue and pop in the crystal then. It'll shine like no other. So I'm going to unsnap it so that way it's laying flat, because it is going to be a little bit of a tension game, making sure that your ZoliDuos, as you're working with them, that they stay nice and flat and don't pucker. We're going to come down the one side on the right, and then we'll come down the left-hand side, adding in the beads between the ZoliDuos and making them sit exactly perfect on each side. After we reinforced, I started coming down the right-hand side just so you can see what the pattern is to connect that outside line of the ZoliDuos. But after we come out of that last 11O, on both the right and the left needle, the exact same pattern occurs. So here you have the opening. You're going to have 5 of your 11O seed beads, and take your needle through the outer hole of the ZoliDuo. When you're through the outer hole of the ZoliDuo, add 3 more 11s. Sew through the 11 that is right between the ZoliDuo and the IrisDuo, and that's going to decorate that outer edge there. On the side of the IrisDuo, it goes 11, 15, 11, and into the next 11O. From there, the pattern of the 3 11s gets repeated, and you go through the next hole of the ZoliDuo. When you're on the side then of the IrisDuo in between the cross section, that's when the crystal gets added with the 11O on either side. So you add an 11O, a crystal, an 11O, and onto the next cross. And that's going to lay that nice X cross right there. From here then repeat, you're coming out of the ZoliDuo, and this again, same on the left, same on the right. On go the 3 11s, through the 11O at the base there of the ZoliDuo, adding a 15, 11, 15. You can see on here by accident I did the 15, 11, 15, and then here I'll have to come back and take that out. I did the 11, 15, 11. I like the look better with the actual bigger one on the outside, so switch to the 15, 11, 15 like I have here on my needle. In through the next 11O, and then on goes 3 more 11s and on to the next ZoliDuo hole. After you're done those sections, on goes 11, crystal 11. And that's going to continue the whole length of the bracelet, pulling those ZoliDuos in and getting that nice sparkle and shine. So as you finish up, after you add your crystals down the sides and your 15s and 11s, you're going to be coming out of the top of the ZoliDuo towards that clasp. And remember I said we would bring the outside in and kind of reinforce. We're going to pick up 4 of our 11-0 seed beads, and then sew into the 2 seed beads right next to the clasp. Go through the clasp and sew down the 2 on the opposite side. On the other side, I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads as well. And once I have those 4 seed beads on, then I'm going to go up through those 2 seed beads, as well as up through the clasp to get that last piece on there. And then I'm going to go down the other side of the clasp 11-0s. So my thread and needle right now are coming out then those after those 11-0 seed beads right there. I'm going to go into the IrisDuo with the one on the right hand side. Left hand side, then I'm going to keep where it is. And on this needle here that I'm working with, I'm going to go back up through that last IrisDuo and bring the needle out right after the IrisDuo. When I do that, mine wants to go through one of the seed beads. When I bring the needle out right after the IrisDuo, then that gives me an opportunity to just tie the 2 thread ends together, take my thread burner and burn those 2 thread edges down and have my little clasp right there. So I'm going to go through here, tie those off once, twice, and then it's time to just grab your E6000 glue, little dab of glue, and you'll glue the clasp right on in there. So you have the clasp there that'll get glued right in, and you have the push clasp there to end the bracelet. Find my crystal here. I'll glue that in. Again, just open up your E6000, get a little bit of glue on the portion here, put it in there, and give it about 5 hours to dry, so that way you know it's nice and dry as you take the bracelet on and off. Once you're all done tying the knot and gluing in the clasp, you can cut off the thread ends and finish your lilac bracelet. The lilac bracelet, again, if you need any of the materials to do the bracelet, they're listed off at the beginning of the video in the little intro clip, as well as we put links below the video in that about section and the published date and kind of that show more description. Click on that and that'll give you links to these fun different products as well. Again, you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the video, and get regular updates on new different classes that we do, products that we carry, more inspirational videos as well, like this Byzantine cross one. So check everything out and let us know what you think as well. Also, if you get a chance, you can go to PotomacBeads.com and check out all the awesome products that we have there. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, as well as on Facebook, join our group for beading and jewelry making. Ask to become a member of that awesome closed group that has a wonderful, wonderful collection of people that love to make jewelry, are so inspirational, are very helpful, and really just a fun group to be part of. As always, thank you so much for watching this lilac bracelet, and enjoy making if you get a chance. Thanks so much, everybody.